And the conversation is with Debbie and Matt and Dr. Kuhn, who are the founders of Expanding Horizons, a transformative program bringing trauma informed fitness and mentorship to justice involved youth. It's a model built around what we know about the brain, trauma, and the power of athlete centered coaching. I have so much gratitude for what they're doing and how they're sharing their story and just breaking the stigma around trauma and addiction and what it means and what it looks like. And I don't want to say normalizing it, but allowing others the freedom to step out and say, this is me and this has happened to me and it doesn't make me a less person. And how can I be of service to others? And hopefully you'll walk away with information on how to coach your athletes through physical and emotional barriers without triggering past trauma or missing key opportunities for growth. But obviously, highly recommend doing their course, as trauma, as we all know, is so complex. So with that, I'm going to jump right in. How does exercise change the brain structure in a traumatized brain?
There's something called neuroception, is the way you look at your environment. So if you have trauma and your neuroception says danger, 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 you are going to be living in your sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, cortisol, adrenaline, so we have adrenal fatigue and just wreaks havoc in the body. That sympathetic nervous system can't stay on for that long. So what happens is your parasympathetic nervous system comes in and says, we can't do this, so we're going to turn you both on. So then the person can dissociate and go into that. It would be a shutdown then. Back to that HRV, if we see that a person has a low heart rate variability, it's a measurement of how much you're in your parasympathetic compared to your sympathetic nervous system. When neuroception says danger, 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 now we're at that low number. That tells us a lot.
I went from high teens, low 20s on the average to, in the upper 40s now. But it wasn't an overnight thing. When I started counseling, when I started rectifying, really understanding who I am and what happened and why I'm the way I am, not pushing that down anymore, saying, well, I can't talk about that, but really saying, I'm okay. I'm a survivor. I can share my story and I can be safe with those that I feel are safe to share that with. We started seeing I was sleeping better and eating better and my exercise became better. And so gradually you could start to see the HRV start to climb.
That's a great explanation. He's putting it all together. He's not repressing anymore. He's sharing clinically. He's continuing with fitness. And to answer how fitness is involved in HRV, that all works together. So, fitness, of course, is going to help with HRV, but fitness alone, as we can tell with Matt, will not work. And Matt's kind of a masculine unicorn, that is, in a good way, in the aspect of he's one of the few men that have actually shared his sexual trauma. Men do not share that.
Yeah. What about phone?
We dissociate or we create dissociation. And that created dissociation could be addiction. It could be, again, behavioral addictions, internet addiction, whatever it is. We're fawning.
A lot of women do fawn, and fawn very often, in my experience, is running towards the same type of trauma. That's why we repeat these cycles of abuse, getting into bad relationships, like not being able to break the pattern because we're constantly stuck in this trauma cycle. How do we understand boundaries as coaches where we care for a person, but don't move into the codependent phase or trying to act like a therapist? Because I think that's a very important distinction to make.
You're really hitting a lot of the pieces that are important. Coaches being able to know themselves and their trauma history is crucial, because if they're not aware of their own history and they have a countertransference response, now I'm reacting negatively to that athlete. In our work with coaches, we try to make it a very introspective journey through that process so that they can understand themselves in a deeper way.
What are the warning signs that people can look out for with their athletes in the gym that they are stuck in like a trauma loop or they are suffering and they, can't even identify it? And like, when do you step in? Like, I have so many questions.
The probation staff that, hey, this individual comes in with severe sexual trauma. We just need to be really, really careful. There's no tactile touch with her. It's all verbal or demonstrative, right? And if she needs to move her barbell to be comfortable, thumbs up. because she would shut down if I did not. So she would turn and then she would just walk off, and that would be it. Like, you just lost her for that day. And we had no idea. So in my mind, I'm like, what are we doing?
In her 15, 16-year-old brain, she couldn't figure it out either.
Right.
She wasn't able to say,
Oh.
hey, this is why I do this,
Mhm.
right? So you ask why do we do the trauma informed coaches training? The uninformed coach, I'm a former teacher, the uninformed teacher starts to over pursue. You're gonna be like everybody else, don't mouth off, you're gonna listen, I'm in charge. You've lost her and re-traumatized. I can't imagine putting myself in your shoes and having empathy. How do you go to the grocery store and you have that re-traumatization all of the time? Well, suddenly now we understand why some people won't go anywhere alone.
Our goal isn't to create clinicians out of a coach. That's not the goal. The
Yep.
goal is to help them recognize the triggers, recognize the personality changes, the traits of those that are suffering from some type of trauma. I don't need to know all of the history, but this is how they're going to act when they come in, and this is how I'm going to handle that.
It's change starts with you first, right? It's all about like, where am I? Checking in with myself and how can I show up for others in the best, most open, graceful way possible? And then creating the safest possible space.
We grow the community to grow the kingdom. That family that is there in the gym never leaves them. Where abandonment, like Aaron said, is a big part of their life today. So everyone that's in their life, they're used until they can't be used anymore, and then they're pushed away. They're dropped, right?
Yep.
Our goal is to keep them involved in the program as long as we can, well after any adjudication has ended. And that's the long-term success.
Department of Youth Services loves is because, like Matt said, family doesn't leave. This family does not leave.
I am like the queen of codependency. And like, how do you have strict boundaries when it comes to that, especially in the gym, where it's like, I don't have a home or I don't have this. And you're like, oh my God, I literally just want to take you home and look after you for the rest of my life. But I know that's not going to end well. So, like, how do people work with that? Because I don't think I'm the only person in the world.
A phrase that I like to use, or a question, when we are apt to try to do something or want to do something for someone, stop, pause, and ask the question, can they do it for themselves? Okay.
Wow.
And if the answer is yes, I may pause and not do it for them. That doesn't mean I'm not going to stand beside them in a line and ask questions, and I'm going to support versus enable. It can be dependent personality, which is I'm terrified to say no because I have my own abandonment fears. And
Right.
if you're mad at me, then I don't know how to manage that and I can't handle it. As a coach, we need to be aware of that because we need to start being comfortable with being uncomfortable. You know,
That is key.
definitely. I know for myself, even I had the save the world complex as a trauma survivor. And I've developed my own personal health routine to let it go. And, being able to maneuver that codependency with insight, with kindness to ourselves, there's a whole process to it as a coach. The 3 and flee, which is, okay, I'm going to align and relate with you. And I'm going to ask the relationship oriented questions and give you that trust. And I might have 3 times where that happens. That flee means I don't abandon you. That means I'm gonna triage you to somebody that's licensed and has the capacity to take it from here.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's gonna be 3 then flee, but it just reminds the coach, "Hey, you are not the licensed therapist." Yeah, we train every coach how to do a safety screen. What are the flags? Do they see themselves as a burden? Do they only have a 20-year-old cat as their support system? You know, we identify those flags, and then if those flags are present, here's what I do.
Listen, this is a course in being a better human being.
Yeah. Anything I've studied or theory that I've studied or technique that I've studied, anything I've tried to master, and I look at the research, it comes down to one thing. What facilitates change the best is relationship. And, that's what we're teaching coaches is to build relationship. And I know it works because the evidence says it does.
Trauma And addiction and mental health doesn't discriminate according to race, creed, religion, gender, socioeconomic status. It affects us all. And it's such a great equalizer because it shows us that we're human and that we need to show up for each other in this relationship structure that you guys are teaching. And I think this is so much more than just like a trauma-informed course. This is a course in what it means to be a human and to show up for other humans. And like my heart is so open and so full right now, and I cannot thank you guys enough.